about 110, the 30th, last day of the month. Um, we come into December tomorrow. Definitely getting into that Christmas vibe. Not so much for me. I'm not much of a, I'm not much on any holiday, to be honest with you. Arbor Day, I like trees. Um, but I'm just not much into specific days being, um, okay, not necessarily so. I do like to, in my own way, at least acknowledge and celebrate um, solstice, both summer and winter, as well as the equinoxes. They feel like auspicious occasions, especially for me, um, winter solstice, which signifies that in that shortest amount of daylight that we have in that day, everything will be lengthening from that point on. That we will be getting more and more light, and the good that that always does me, receiving more light. That those dark hours of winter now have um, at least a clear ending in sight. Maybe not soon, a lot more to endure, but I know it's coming to an end. So there are some, again, auspicious days, auspicious occasions that I do like to celebrate. And I'm not anti-holiday. I try not to rain on other people's parades. They're just not for me. And even when I was younger, um, I felt somewhat of a heaviness and depression um, during holiday seasons. But I do put on a brave face for those who do celebrate. It's an important day for many. It's a very symbolic day for so many. And there's a lot of ways to view Christmas, aside from, even if you're not Christian, that we can all be birthed into Christ consciousness, that we can um, all bring ourselves into a new world, that um, God exists in all beings, and on such a holy occasion, on such a holy day, can be brought forward, brought forth. Important things to remember. Important things to remember what lies within the holidays. And we miss that so much with Christmas because it has been co-opted by as a shopping event. That the most immaterial thing in the world, the birth of God into body, has become the most materialistic thing ever. You know, that we keep track of the holiday season sales and um, how the measure they play in the economy. That, you know, presidents will tout how much was sold, how much shopping was done. And yet, is it all necessary? Are we better off at the end of the season than we were when the season started? Or are we feeling a little empty afterwards? We're feeling like we put so much out there. And, you know, maybe you take some warm family memories with you through the years. That's no small thing. So, you know, I'm not shouting that down. But sometimes I think we do need to reconsider. We need to consider how we approach things, how we approach most everything. Which sort of leads me into things that I was considering earlier today. I was thinking quite a bit about beliefs. I watched a YouTube clip of political show interviewing some young people. Well, not just young people, some young and some middle-aged and some old. And the one thing that I kept hearing over and over again as they questioned these people, they routinely said, well, I believe I believe, I believe. And yet no one said why. Why do you believe this? What are your beliefs based upon? And if they were to ask that, I would imagine most would say, well, just a feeling that I get, that I heard this and it feels right, it feels correct, which is such an odd thing to say when you take it into consideration, that we feel all kinds of things. That doesn't make them true. If you were to mishear someone, if you thought you heard someone say you were a jerk, and you got really upset, almost to the point of confronting this person and starting a physical altercation with them, or at the very least ready to shout, ready to defend yourself, and then you find out that you didn't hear correctly, misinterpreted, and you immediately let those feelings go. You're not still angry because you realize that you were mistaken. That person didn't really say that. However, if you went by your feelings on what you believed to be true, you could have easily confronted that person and started a situation based on absolutely nothing, just on how you feel. How you feel is not a representation of ultimate reality. It is a representation of how you feel. That's the reality. And yet beneath that reality is always a greater reality of what's true, or what's most likely true, or the mystery of what's true. I like referring to more as a mystery, because when we say true, ultimately true, it sort of points in the direction that we know, and we don't. We don't know what's ultimately true. We might suspect, we might gain some insight through some deep contemplation, through meditation, through deep prayer work, something along those lines. We might get an inclination of what is fluidly so, fluidly true, meaning that truth is no set pattern. It's always in flux, which is why it's always better not to know. So when I hear political people say, I believe this is true. I believe that our country is based upon biblical beliefs. I believe that Democrats are bad, Republicans are good. I believe that Republicans are good and Democrats are bad, or whatever. It's just a belief. Examine every single one of those beliefs. Live your life from the mystery of what is, because what is mystery. When you set these patterns in place, almost in stone, because you believe, you're not only doing yourself a disservice, you're doing the world a disservice, because you've closed off everything outside of your beliefs. Our friend Destiny is here. Destiny Forever Walks PhD. Happy Thursday, and how are you, Eric? Blessings to you. Thank you, and blessings to you as well. I'm doing well. I was talking about the upcoming Christmas season and sort of how it's been co-opted by materialistic gains, and the spirit of the season seems to be somewhat missing, which led me into talking about beliefs and how much we base upon beliefs, and yet belief is never certain. It's just what we think based on how we feel, but it doesn't have a basis in reality. People can say, I don't believe in climate change. People can say, I don't believe that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. People can say, I don't believe in all kinds of things, and I do believe in this conspiracy theory or the other. But just believing it or disbelieving it, again, doesn't make it so. Beliefs are very powerful because we act upon them. Our life is shaped upon them. But that so often means that our life is shaped around an illusion. And again, it keeps us closed off. Not only does it keep us closed off from the world, when we say, I don't believe in climate change, we are dismissing the fact that the climate is changing already and it's being damaged. And we are doing a great, great disservice to our children and grandchildren who are going to inherit the world of our disbelief. That we did nothing to change things because we refused to believe what was evident. Now, I'm not here to get political about any of this, but the scientific community overwhelmingly believes, overwhelmingly knows climate changing. If it was just a belief, who knows what we would be doing? We wouldn't be raising the alarm. The scientific community wouldn't be sounding the alarm. Destiny says beliefs are never certain. Beliefs are your truth to what you perceive life to be. We can shape or unshape our world with what we believe. Indeed, they're very powerful. But as you said, they're never certain. So we need to be careful with the beliefs. We shouldn't just accept them because our parents believe this, because our church tells us to believe this, that we saw it on a certain news station, so we believe it, that a political person said it, so it must be true. Every belief should be examined. Doesn't mean examined in a negative sense, but just, is it true? Can you absolutely know for certain that it's true? And that way we can let our beliefs go if they're no longer serving us. We can adopt new beliefs that serve us better. But all of them should be held lightly. We should be willing to let go of any belief in a moment's notice. That's the whole Zen tradition of the don't know mind. That we live from that, I don't know. And then we see that everything's mystery. And in that mystery, all things are possible as well. So, I do believe in the power of belief. But I don't believe we should be certain on how we lead our life according to those beliefs. Now that I'm using paradoxes and double negatives in my sentences. Destiny says, exactly, we do have to be careful with our beliefs. We must examine them to find the needle in the haystack. Perfectly said. Examining them each. What is there a kernel of truth in these beliefs? Dive in. That's the whole basis of self-inquiry. We ask ourselves, in self-inquiry, we ask ourselves, who am I? And we don't settle on any one thing, most especially if it can be disproven. In the yogic non-duality tradition, there is the neti meditation. And neti simply means not this. And what you meditate upon is asking yourself, who am I? And then you examine and dismiss everything that comes up. So if I ask, who am I? And I say, I'm Eric, I'd have to say neti, not this. I'm not a name, I'm not a label. That's a description given to the entity of who I am. And then if I say, well, I am a white man, 58 years old, I can dismiss that as well. Because is that all I am? In the absence of any of those things, do I cease to exist? Am I my job? Am I any description or label that can be given to me? Am I my relationships? What happens if the relationships end? Am I my personality? Which personality? The personality that I had when I was 2? Or in my teens? If it's always changing, then how can I be that? And what we come to realize is we're more of a verb than we are a noun. We are selfing. We don't exist as a static thing, as a static entity. We exist as a fluctuating energetic pattern that is always expanding and contracting, that is always this deep consciousness that is accepting and allowing. That's the value of self-inquiry, because when you do that, when you dismiss these things, and when you refuse to hold tightly to any singular belief, life just becomes immeasurably easier. We're less confrontational, because your beliefs don't need to be in confrontation with mine, because mine are held lightly. I can consider yours. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're not. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm not. Destiny says, belief is a person's trust, faith, or confidence in someone or something. But reality is the way things actually are in the real world. Who know the truth of all things? Who holds the truth? Excellent point. And some people will say, well, the hierarchy of church, that the priest knows the truth. And of course, priests for eons back always encourage that, because that gives them power. Or this political leader knows the truth. We see that now so often, that this political person is the paragon of truth, knows all, sees things deeply. As Destiny says, who holds the truth? And why? Here's the thing, my beliefs, speaking of beliefs, we all hold the truth, because we are all truth itself. However, that doesn't mean that there aren't layers of delusions that keep us from seeing that what's so. That's why we practice meditation. That's why we practice prayer. That's why we practice self-inquiry. To see through those labels, to see through the layers, to get to just what is right now without the need of description. It's not that words and descriptions and labels are bad. They're necessary to help us navigate through the world. But when we confuse them with reality itself, then we're losing the excitement of what is right now. And that's everything. The excitement of just a breath. Imagine that we are inhaling air that continues infinitely so, until the atmosphere ends and becomes space, the universe. And it's personalized through that single breath that we take. Man, how fortunate are we? How lucky are we? Endless air to take a breath. That's the actuality of right now. Taking that breath, having my heart beat, feeling the desk beneath my fingers, hear myself talk, knowing that I have a friend 1,000 miles away who's engaging in a conversation with me right now. The actuality right now. All that is true. Everything I just said is a description, though. It's happening. It doesn't need me to say any of that for it to be. Again, it doesn't mean it's bad to say any of that. I consider myself a writer, so descriptions are my thing. And if I can catch a description in beautiful language, man, that's the biggest rush of all for me. That's what I live for. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But again, it's not the actuality. The actuality is the typing, is the thinking, is the fluctuation of all that happening right now. So, when I watched that little political snippet on YouTube of these people saying, well, I believe this is the way things should be. I believe this is how our country should be. I believe this is how you should be. I believe that these people are wrong. I believe that these type of people shouldn't exist. All based upon a thought. A thought that isn't even there once it's over. You have to keep recalling it over and over and over again. If you let that thought go and it never came back, how would your life be different? Who would you be? You'd be much freer, much easier. As Destiny says, that's just their own personal belief. I agree. And the sad thing is, again, it's not based on anything. You could say, I believe this group of people are wrong or shouldn't exist. But what's it based upon? Just saying, I believe. Again, it doesn't make it so. Examine those thoughts and then live from that truth. Live from the emptiness. Once that belief, once that thought is gone, you have to bring it back again and again and again and again. That takes an awful lot of energy. It takes an awful lot of energy to uphold a belief. If you free that energy, imagine how creative you would be. Imagine the life you would be if you weren't consumed by those beliefs. Most importantly, if you weren't consumed by those negative beliefs. You'd have so much energy, so much creativity, so much love that's already present, but is blocked from recognition. So, those are my thoughts for the day. With that, something to think about. With that, I think we'll call it a day. Coming up on a little past 20 minutes. It's a good time to, again, put something out there, reflect upon it, see how it works. Take your most deeply cherished belief and think about it, and then let it go, and see who you are without that belief. You can always bring it back if you don't like it, or you can get a new belief to take its place, or you can just let it go. Just see how it works. So, all right, guys. Destiny says, good thoughts, Eric, and a great elaboration. Thank you. Thanks for the discussion. And thank you for the discussion as well, and for your insights, which are always very much appreciated, because I consider you a very deep, I want to say a very deep thinker, but I'm not so sure, because the things that you and I talk about quite often go beyond the limits of thoughts. So let's just say I consider you very deep, that there is an infinite depth to you. And in that infinite depth, so much wisdom, so much joy comes to the surface, and you offer it to everyone. So again, that's beyond thoughts. Anyone can have good and happy thoughts, even if we fake them. However, to live from that depth of true beingness, that's a whole nother story. And I believe we get there through grace, sometimes through hardship, Sometimes heartbreak and sadness serves to break us open. As Leonard Cohen sang, everything has a crack in it, and that's how the light gets in. So, with that, once again, Destiny, thank you very much. And I will see everyone tomorrow for some burpees in the morning. That would be the perfect name for a morning talk show. Burpees in the morning. If anyone hears this and they want to run with it and start their own morning burpee broadcast, feel free. You can have me on as a guest. Thanks again. You guys have a good day.